Coming up on 5 Minute News. US to erase student debt for people with severe disabilities. Record Delta wave hits children, raising fears as schools open. And fires harming California's efforts to curb climate change. It's Friday, August 20. I'm Anthony Davis. The Biden administration announced on Thursday it will automatically erase student loan debt for more than 300,000 Americans with severe disabilities that leave them unable to earn significant incomes. The move will wipe out more than $5.8 billion in debt, according to the Education Department, and it marks the start of a broader overhaul of a program that has been criticized for having overly burdensome rules. The federal government offers student debt relief for people who are totally and permanently disabled and have limited incomes, but the current rules require them to submit documentation of their disability and undergo a 3-year monitoring period to prove they're earning little pay. Tens of thousands of people have been dropped from the program and had their loans reinstated simply because they failed to submit proof of their earnings, however, and critics say the complex rules deter some from applying. Advocates have pressed the Education Department to eliminate the monitoring period entirely and to provide automatic debt relief to people who the Social Security Administration already identifies as permanently disabled. Under the new action, both demands will be met. Starting in September, the Education Department will start erasing student debt for 323,000 Americans identified in Social Security records as being permanently disabled. Advocates celebrated the change as a victory. Aaron Ament, president of the National Student Legal Defense Network, called it a life-changing step. With the highly contagious Delta variant of coronavirus spreading across the US, children are filling hospital intensive care beds instead of classrooms in record numbers. More even than at the height of the pandemic. Many are too young to get the vaccine, which is available only to those 12 and over. The surging virus is spreading anxiety and causing turmoil and infighting among parents, administrators, and politicians around the US, especially in states like Florida and Texas, where Republican governors have politicized the pandemic, barring schools from making youngsters wear masks. With millions of children returning to classrooms this month, experts say the stakes are unquestionably high. While pediatric COVID-19 hospitalization rates are lower than those for adults, they have surged in recent weeks. Dr. Francis Collins, head of the National Institutes of Health, calls the spike in cases among children very worrisome. He noted that over 400 US children have died of COVID-19 since the pandemic began, and right now we have almost 2,000 kids in the hospital, many of them in ICU, some of them under the age of 4. Health experts believe adults who've not had their shots are contributing to the surge among grown-ups and children alike. It has been especially bad in places with lower vaccination rates, such as parts of the South. At Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, the nation's largest pediatric hospital, the number of youngsters treated for COVID-19 is at an all-time high, said Dr. Jim Versalovic, interim pediatrician-in-chief. In recent weeks, the vast majority have had Delta infections, and most patients, 12 and up, have not had shots. It is spreading like wildfire across our communities, he said. Record-setting blazes raging across Northern California are wiping out forests central to plans to reduce carbon emissions and testing projects designated to protect communities, the state's top fire official has said hours before a fast-moving new blaze erupted. Fires that are exceedingly resistant to control in drought-sapped vegetation are on pace to exceed the amount of land burned last year, the most in modern history, and having broader effects, says Tom Porter, chief of the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. Hours after Porter spoke, a grass fire spurred by winds of up to 30 miles an hour swiftly burned dozens of homes, forced the evacuation of schools, and threatened the city of Clear Lake, about 80 miles north of San Francisco. The largest current fire in the West, known as the Dixie Fire, is the first to have burned from east to west across the spine of California, where the Sierra Nevada and Cascade Mountains meet, the state's fire chief said. It was also one of several massive fires that have destroyed areas of the timber belt that serve as a centerpiece of the state's climate reduction plan, because trees can store carbon dioxide. John Battles, a professor of forest ecology at the University of California, Berkeley, said the fires are behaving in ways not seen in the past, as flames churn through trees and brush desiccated by a mega-drought in the west and exacerbated by climate change. Battles said the fires have created a vicious cycle. Burning increases carbon emissions while also destroying trees and other ground cover that can absorb the greenhouse gas. Dead trees will continue to release carbon they once stored. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.